Hey, Vsause, Michael here. What would it be like to go on a trip to Venus? What could you expect when you got there, and what would you need to bring with you? Venus is the second planet from our Sun, and similar to Earth in its size. But that's where most of the similarities end. You see, compared to Earth, Venus is a hellish world of 462 degrees Celsius. That's an insane 863 degrees, hot enough to melt lead. Forget sunscreen. On Venus, your sunscreen will cook you like popcorn cooking in olive oil. Named after the Roman goddess of love, Venus is one of the least hospitable planets in our solar system. The second planet in our solar system, Venus orbits 108 million kilometers from the Sun, in between Mercury and the Earth. The temperature on Venus is scalding 462 degrees Celsius on average, and thanks to its high rotating winds, the atmosphere that will whip storms around the planet on a daily basis, it keeps the temperature on the surface relatively consistent, keeping the lead melting surface temperature relatively the same, whether it's night or day. So, now on to day and night. So, speaking of day and night, on Venus, the year is shorter than a single day. I know. It would seem strange, but a single day on Venus lasts about 243 days on Earth, while the year on Venus only lasts about 225 Earth days. Now, a simple explanation for this is simply because Venus is closer to the Sun than we are. Its orbit around the Sun being closer than Earth's means that it takes a shorter period of time to go around, with the slower turn on its axis. Combine that, you got yourself a year shorter than a single damn day. Every single day would be your birthday. Now, basically, and weirder, because Venus rotates counterclockwise on its axis, the Sun rises in the west and sets in the east. An interesting fact, the only images ever taken from the Venetian surface were taken by a duo of Soviet space probes that landed there in the 1980s. Both these probes, due to the extreme temperatures, were both cooked to a crisp within 2 hours. Now, how did this planet form? Well, like all planets in the solar system, it started with a lot of stellar debris left over from the creation of the Sun that was orbiting in a cloud around the Sun. Now, this dust started to clump together more and more and more, and as this pile of dust turned into a pebble, that pebble over time turned into a rock, a boulder, etc., it got bigger, more stuff started smashing into it, it got bigger and bigger until we considered it a planet. And what we consider a planet means that it's large enough that it basically throws any loose junk out into space. So we're talking asteroids, meteors, all that stuff. And now the revolution. Well, as I said before, when the planet formed, it was formed from dust particles that were floating in orbit around the Sun. Now, when the planet was formed, that orbit didn't change. They were still orbiting. It was still revolving and orbiting around the Sun, so that never changed. It's always been in orbit from the time it started to form. It's been revolving around the Sun. Now it does this because it's basically because of it's in orbit. It's in perpetual free fall. It's constantly falling towards it, but because it's also moving away from it in that curve, you're falling always, but you're not really falling. What will you need to pack on this trip to Venus? Well, I have 3 very important things that you should bring. First, a high-pressure thermal space suit unit. This suit will help keep you safe from the dangerous temperatures and high atmospheric pressures put on you by the planet of Venus. Its incredibly high atmosphere, whipping winds, and horrifyingly high temperatures will melt you unless you have the right safety equipment, so pack smart. Number 2 on our list, a mobile base unit. Use this to clean a little bubble of atmosphere, build yourself a little temporary home on the hellhole that is Venus for the time that you are staying there. It'll be very important, because one place you don't want to be homeless is a planet that's normal temperature is over 800 degrees. And the third thing on our list, a high pressure transport vehicle. You will be using this to get around and explore your hellish environments from the safety of your patented, can I say a Jeep? Can I say a licensed car brand? I don't know. With your licensed Tesla Land Rover. This will help you get across the Venetian surface. I don't care if that's Venice, isn't it? The Venetian surface? I don't know. That will help you get across it and traverse, explore to your heart's content. And if something goes wrong, well then, oh well, you probably shouldn't have gone to Venus in the first place. On to our last point in this Vsause parody. Mass versus weight. How will it change? Well, because we're in the normal universe, mass will not change. It will not change in the slightest. And here's why. Mass won't change or be the mass won't change. It will be affected by the planet's gravity. None of that will change, because the amount of matter in the object, the amount of mass in an object will stay constant. You know, gravitational force isn't just going to change unless there's more or less matter. But because matter is, the amount of matter we're talking about here is constant, it doesn't change depending on what the gravity is. Like weight, it's going to stay the same. It's not going to change at all. Now, speaking of weight, underweight, because of Venus's smaller size, the gravity is about 1.1 times weaker on the surface of Venus than it is on Earth. This will mean that if whatever you weigh on Earth, you will be 1.1 times lighter on Venus. So that will change. So because whatever, again, basic laws, less mass, less gravity, unless you're talking, but here we get into an interesting point. Here we get into a little side topic, going off track here a little bit, of what is the matter? No, that's a pun. No, that was not intentional. But what is the matter with the object? If something is made of hydrogen, it's going to have it's going to weigh a lot more than an object with the same mass, but made of uranium-235, because uranium-235 has a much higher nuclear weight. Sorry, a far bigger atomic weight than hydrogen. Anyway, back on track. That was the end of the video. I hope you guys liked it. And if you did, please make sure to smash that subscribe button, and even harder, smash that like button. And I will see you next time. Goodbye, guys. Vsause out.